This is Jeff Lumpkin from Catch Analytics. This video is the first in a series focusing on analyzing obstetrics data using the Robson 10 group classification system. Over the past couple months, I've done a fair amount of analysis using this system, and it's really been educational for me. I've come to see it as useful not just for addressing high rates of cesarean section, but also as a paradigm for understanding the delivery process as a whole. And why the focus on cesareans? It's pretty simple. On a global basis, cesarean section rates have been rising all around the world. The worldwide figure as of 2015 is 21%. In Western Europe, it's higher at 25%. But in the United States, we're currently at 32%, having increased from 21% in 1995. And when the procedure is not medically indicated, lowering cesarean rates is a priority because there are significant benefits in terms of better outcomes for both mothers and babies. Decreased use of hospital resources, which is especially important right now during the pandemic, as well as lower costs. Identifying ways of lowering CS rates is only possible when the causes of those high rates are understood at a very granular level. And that's what the 10-group classification system does. It identifies distinct populations of delivering mothers and makes it possible to analyze rates for those groups in isolation. And the classification page identifies the 10 groups, and note that groups 2 and group 4 have subgroups based on labor type. But rather than go into further detail on this page, I want to jump into the tabular view. Before doing that, just a bit of background on the system. It was created by Dr. Michael Robson in 2001. Dr. Robson is a Dublin-based obstetrician and former master of Ireland's National Maternity Hospital. He created the system to allow more accurate comparison of cesarean rates in different groups of delivering mothers across different settings, whether that be individual hospitals or even entire countries. It was endorsed by the World Health Organization in 2015. It differs from other classification systems in that it accounts for all women who undergo delivery and not just those who proceed to cesarean section. A second important aspect of the TGCS is that the groups are mutually exclusive and totally inclusive. And this means that all women admitted for delivery will be classified into one and only one group. These characteristics are significant because it means that the entire population of delivering women can be compared, not just for C-section rates, but also for a great many other outcomes and underlying factors, such as rates of episiotomy, 3 to 4 degree laceration, postpartum hemorrhage, etc. So let's jump to the tabular view. I really like this view because it leads to a very clear understanding of the differences between groups. And what immediately jumps out is that there are 6 factors used to make up the different classifications: parity, gestational age, plurality, presentation, labor type, and previous cesarean. Parity indicates the number of times that a woman has given birth. Nulliparous means has not given birth before. Multiparous means has given birth before. The second factor, gestational age, indicates a mature or term delivery greater than or equal to 37 weeks, or a premature delivery less than 37 weeks. Plurality indicates the number of fetuses being carried. Single is one baby, multiple is more than one. Presentation is the position of the baby within the uterus. The most common, safest, and easiest to deliver is the cephalic or vertex presentation, when the baby is head down facing the mother's back. The second possibility is a breech delivery, when the buttocks or feet are positioned to be delivered first. And an abnormal lie, which is any position other than cephalic or breech, such as a transverse lie, when the baby is positioned laterally within the uterus. The fifth variable is labor type. There are 3 possibilities here: spontaneous labor, induced labor, or a no labor cesarean, when the C-section is performed before labor is even started. And you can see that in groups 1 and 2 and replicated in groups 3 and 4. The final variable is, has the mother experienced a previous cesarean before? 2 possibilities, no or yes. This view feels very useful to me because it makes clear these different groupings. So groups 1 and 2 are the nulliparous, term, singleton, vertex population, which is a very common grouping in obstetrics. Groups 3 through 5 are the multiparous, term, singleton, vertex population. And group 5 being distinguished by the fact that the mother has had a previous cesarean. So these represent very standard deliveries. Groups 6 through 10 represent complicated deliveries, either because of presentation, breech for nullips or multips, plurality, number of fetuses, an abnormal lie, which is presentation, or finally a premature delivery. Now, Dr. Robson and the WHO have published guidelines for each of these groups, and it's really instrumental to understand what those guidelines are. The two measures or metrics that are looked at are the size of the delivery group, so the percentage of women in each group as related to the whole, and then what is the cesarean section rate. So when we look at size of delivery group, the NTSV population would normally comprise 35 to 42% of women. The MTSV population would be 30%. Women with previous cesareans, 10 to 15%. And so these 5 groups represent the large majority, more than 80% of the delivering population. And this is really the set of groups where the greatest impact can be made when it comes to lowering cesarean rates. Groups 6 through 10, representing complicated deliveries, is much smaller, around 12%. Presentation for breach of nullus or multips would be 3 to 4%. Multiple fetuses, 1.5 to 2%. Abnormalized, less than 1%. And premature deliveries, less than 5% of women. So you can see these percentages are much smaller than the ones in group 1 to 5. Before jumping into cesarean rates, we should also discuss the ratios between groups. So looking at group 1 and group 2, there should be a ratio of 2 to 1, meaning that spontaneous deliveries are more than twice the size of induced or no labor cesarean deliveries. This same ratio should hold for group 3 and 4, with the additional caveat that the ratio for 3 and 4 should be larger than the ratio for 1 and 2. And then finally, looking at the ratio of nullip to multip breaches, that ratio should again be 2 to 1 or higher, because breach presentations occur much more often in nulliparous women than in multiparous women. Getting to cesarean rates for the NTSV population, spontaneous delivery should be less than 10%. For group 2, 20 to 35%. In groups 3 and 4, for spontaneous deliveries, that's group 3, it should be 3% or less, and for group 4, less than 15%. For group 5, the rate is much higher at around 60%, and this number can actually vary quite a bit, depending, for instance, on the policy of the hospital, on whether to automatically provide a cesarean for women who have had cesareans before. Now, the rates for groups 6 through 10 are much higher. For breech deliveries, it's 80 to 100%. For twins, 60%. And abnormalized should be 100%, while for premature deliveries, that's at 30%. This table, with the delivery group size guidelines, ratios, and expected cesarean rates, captures most of the fundamental tenets of the Robson classification. And having understood these tenets, we're now in a position to look at real data and really understand what that data is telling us. So the next video in this series, we'll start looking at real data. Thanks for watching, and watch out for the next one. Bye-bye.